You know the drill. Maelstrom. Let's get into it.
Here at Tattoo Tabletop, we have a lot of fun, so be sure to like, share, subscribe. It's all completely free, and it helps me out. And if you really want to help me out, come join our Patreon. Link is in the description where you can come post and talk about your favorite minis. Now back to the video.
Welcome to Tattoo Tabletop. My name is James, and today we are talking about the next campaign for Warhammer 40,000, Maelstrom. Lair the Tyrant into the Nightmare Realm. So, what do you get? We talked about the 500 worlds and a little bit of what that implies. We'll go over a little bit as well. Still haven't gotten a chance to extremely deep dive into the lore yet. There's probably people who are going to do a much better job of it, but I will talk about one lore implication that I'm very excited about, and we'll obviously break down the contents of this and see if this is for you. So let's get into it. All right, as is tradition, there's multiple books to this. So here you have your little bits here. You have 3 books. And then you, of course, have the packet of the detachments that they've talked about ad nauseum. So a couple Chaos detachments, a couple Eldari detachments, and then you have 1 detachment for Votann and 1 detachment for Orcs, which is great. However, let's just cut into this part of the war right now. There really isn't much of them in here. In terms of like talking about the lore, let me just set this down. In terms of talking about the lore, it's mostly talking about Huron and his fight with Eldari Corsairs in the Maelstrom. I like there's pictures of other things, right? Like let's see if I can even find something here. So there was like a picture of them fighting Tyranids. There is, this little tidbit right here where, the Green Menace, it mentions it here. But otherwise, for the most part, the orcs and the Votann really aren't talked about much. I think it's just to give them another detachment so that they're included, even though they're not a part of the grand narrative. I will say the biggest ups go to this piece of artwork with the Executioner, and the big crucifixes there on the Void ships. So there's still some really cool artwork, and there is some cool lore bits, and we'll just go into this right now since I have this book in front of me. The models look great. I think they're really cool. It's cool to see that the Corsairs are getting expanded on the Eldari side. I think rules might have to catch up to them a little bit. They looked okay, but nothing crazy. Prince Uriel, cool to see him back. Don't know a ton about him if I'm being completely honest. But here's the lore bit that I'm really excited about. So number one, there's 2 lore bits. So the back couple pages here, inside the Guy, whatever it is, inside these are like lore journal entries, which are actually kind of cool. They talk about, so like there's one from Captain Soliana Thren of Solemnity describing the Mawtex, excerpt from the Nightmare Gulf, Navigator of Saintly Virtue, different things like that. But one specific one that actually really caught my attention is this one here. You can kind of see there's that knife, and it's lined up to those chaos mutations. It specifically is from this character up above it. His name is Kraskor Vorm of the Red Corsairs, and what he talks about is being exposed to the Maelstrom. Obviously, comes with it chaos corruption, and with that corruption comes mutation. Tentacles, other things like that, and calls it as the corruption of their flesh. But one declared a statement here: "I will not let the Maelstrom take me. I have no wish to end up like Horsk, sealed within my armor, barely able to reason, let alone speak. And so I carve, whittle, burn, and cauterize, and I bear the pain gladly. Better it is to repair the flesh till naught remains than to be riven by mutation and shackled to the will of some empiric power. I have spent most of my life as slave to the Emperor's lost cause. I would rather die than bow before another master." So that's kind of cool. This is a piece of lore that I actually really like because specifically, I like my Chaos Space Marines. Night Lords are still my favorite, but I tend to not like the Chaos Corrupted versions, like the mutated ones. Like, yeah, it kind of adds like a cool horror element to it, but I mean, you have Chaos Spawn for that. You have like specific God Affinity ones, Nurgle Corn, Slash, etc. So I've always liked that. I mean, the new Raptor kit now has like a mutated version, and I actually don't really like the data sheet at all now. They're more expensive, and I don't think they're a ton better. But I really like this little lore bit with the drawing of him like literally taking the knife and like cutting them off, like specifically resisting them in that regards. Like obviously this person or this Red Corsair is not accepting chaos into it, like not beholden to these gods, but the mutations that he's experiencing, he's just saying no, pass, carve. So that is really cool. So that's one piece of lore that I really enjoy. And then the last bit is of course, another letter going out. Letter. But basically, it's coming from a guy named Inquisitor Scalen of Ordo Astartes. Now, it's him sending a message to somebody, a friend, he calls it. He says, there are many in this throne world. Reach them, blah, blah, blah. I have feared for so long, and you, my friend, foresaw all these years ago. Basically, Gilliman is offering the Emperor's absolution to the Mantis Warriors, the Executioners, and the Lamenters. 3 chapters that were participating in the Badab War and who joined the side of, the future Red Corsairs and Huron and fought against the Emperor. And they have been on penitent crusades ever since to atone for their sin of joining Huron in that. But of course, the only way they receive the Emperor's absolution is if they kill Huron Blackheart. They have to go after him. This last little tidbit talks about, I will not permit the tyrant to reap another corruptive harvest of the Emperor's creations. We failed once to fully cauterize the stump of the Badab War, letting 3 tainted limbs continue to wield blades in the Emperor's name when they should have been severed from the Imperial body. I would see those chapters extinct before I allow Badab to happen again. So this Inquisitor absolutely hates these chapters because they obviously have sided, even though they're on penitent crusades. I beg you to basically, instigate the contingency that you and others have prepared for. I will gather my followers, both loyal and unknowing. If these chapters prove us wrong, we will be in a position to reinforce their noble efforts. Otherwise, we will have a weapon in place, ready to strike them down. A weapon the Imperium lacked at Badab. So very interesting tidbit there, but also basically saying, hey, we'll show up and pretend to look like reinforcements, and if they turn against us again, we'll wipe them out. This is what the very interesting part. If this entreaty reaches you, wherever in the outer dark you may hunt, know that I have ensured termination failsafes to erase this message. Now, why is that so freaking interesting? Specifically, that last line there, wherever in the outer dark you may hunt, just that little tidbit. The only outer dark that I know of in Warhammer 40,000 pertains to other participants of the Badab War, the Carcharodons, aka Space Sharks, and Big Daddy Tyberos. So here's hoping that this is an indicator that Carcharodons are coming. Tyberos might get his own model. That would be super sweet. Games Workshop does seem to be fleshing out these other factions a bit more. Obviously, now we have Red Corsair stuff, something that I don't think I would have foreseen in a very, very long time. So to get Loyalist part of it, Carcharodon's flushed out more would be fantastic. I think they are a really, really cool chapter. I think they have a really unique aesthetic to them, a really unique lore to them. They have books from Robbie McNiven. So I think this is really cool. So that kind of sets it up. Wherever in the outer dark you may hunt. So here's hoping we're getting Tyberos. That'd be super dope. But that is essentially Maelstrom. I look forward to diving into it a little bit more. Didn't feel as impactful. Maybe I'll find other better tidbits in here to talk about how impactful this is lore-wise. But thus far, it just seems like Huron's up to weird pirate stuff, and he's trying to, cement more of his power. He's the tyrant still, yada, yada, yada. And he's got a whole host of characters with him. So maybe we'll see something a bit more impactful, but at least for this one, it definitely feels, at least, maybe it's just because Captain Titus is in Space Marine 2, but for the most part, this doesn't feel terribly impactful. So we'll find out. Who knows? But that's that.
When you're taking a break from your latest quest, the Bellows Bistro has exactly what you need. Located next to the Forge in Chaska with a fantastic fantasy setting, a wide selection of unique food items that will be sure to satisfy the adventurer in you. While you open up that new pack of Magic the Gathering cards, maybe play some board games or just take in the aesthetic. This will for sure become a staple for you in the future. Thank you to the Bellows Bistro for sponsoring this video.
Next, we have this book, The Crucible of Champions. Now, this one is actually really cool. I like this one because this is the more narrative one. But basically, this gives you steps and rules to create your own champion, which is really, really cool. So it kind of gives you the introduction, tells you, choose an archetype, choose a specialism, choose an ability, and choose your weapons. And basically it just kind of allows you to create your own hero, your own character. It adds a lot of very lore focus, to these. I really like that. It does have everybody in here, Imperial agents included, which is crazy. But like Astra Militarum, you can make a frontline commander, an augmented bone ed, Ogren, or you can make a Sentinel commander. So it gives you those 3 data sheets, and then you can build off of it, giving them specialisms, augmented bonehead only. You can get the brute shield. So basically, you can just make a cool champion character, equip them with the weapons attached and stuff like that, and then you can play with them in games, which is really, really cool. I really like that. I'm always for a bit of lore in here. So this is kind of a nice little way to do that. And of course, it has some really cool kit bashes and conversions and examples of Crucible champions that have been created. I really like it. It's it's a small thing, but honestly, I think that there's going to be a lot of people who are actually going to have a lot of fun playing around with this just for some friendly games, especially before we get into 11th edition. Last but not least, we've got the narrative campaign path, Lair of the Tyrant, Raid and Run, with the Eldari Corsairs and the Raid Corsairs on there. Basically got a couple missions in here, some fun stuff. Obviously, great miniature photography. This is I think the one picture right here in the introduction that has Leagues of Votann in it, which is interesting to say the least, and gives you the different challenges and stuff like that. It looks like it's got a whole little chart here, each one more different than the others, and of course, Spoil of War. It looks like it's got some stuff there. So there is a lot to be said here. There's more campaign stuff, missions, additional missions, stratagems, stuff like that. But basically, this is going to be your narrative campaign book that you can use and play games with different deployments and everything else like that. So pretty cut and dry. There's your narrative missions. So there you go. So there we go. There's Maelstrom with all of its books. What do I think? Well, it's all right. If I'm being honest, it's all right. I feel like it was nice to get the Red Corsair stuff. It's cool to get some new detachments for CSM. Those detachments do have some pretty cool rules, including one that gives them essentially a Chaos Oath of Moment, which is pretty great. So that adds a nice little element to it as well. And then, of course, Eldari getting some more detachments, getting some new models with the Corsairs. That's pretty cool. I know a couple Eldari players that are kind of stoked for it and also kind of just up in the air about it. So I think, maybe they'll pick up the models down the road. But I think it'll be dependent on the rules that they get and stuff like that. I like the new Leagues of Votann detachment. I actually want to try that at some point here, where basically you get to choose whether or not you want to be fortified or hostile, which I think is great, gives a bit more flexibility there. And I think there's some cool stuff that could be had in there as well. And then, of course, the freebooters, it's just a fun little detachment for the orcs. I don't know if it's necessarily going to bust anything open. But again, it's always nice to partake. It's just it's cool that they got the detachment, but it kind of feels a little unfortunate that they don't seem to have a ton of effect on the campaign. Maybe I missed something, but when I was flipping through, I was this is literally all Eldari and all Red Corsairs, but shrug. So that's that. Do I think it's necessary for anybody? Obviously not. I think the 500 Worlds one was a little cooler, if I'm being honest. I think they added some cooler elements to it, and obviously I think it's also due to the fact that Captain Titus is, model ultramarine character that we get to play video games with and stuff like that. So you get a cool kind of connection to that, and I think that created a little bit more of an emphasis to it. Thus far, I like some of the approach to how they're handling the campaign books. However, the last one that's coming here really better swing for the fences, because right now it feels like they're doing some cool things, but it also doesn't feel like they are really changing a ton. it doesn't feel like there's a big galactic effect that's happening here. A lot of it is coming from the last pages of the books. You know, the first one being the Lion and Gilliman. You know, Lion came to talk to Gilliman. We don't know what that looks like. We still don't know what that sounds like. So hopefully we're getting a payoff in the next book for it. And of course, this one teasing the idea that Tiberos and the Carcharodons, at least that's what I think it is. I mean, it's the Outer Dark and they hunt Carcharodons. So in the event that we're getting that, that will be a cool lore implication as well. But for the most part, nothing's really knocked my socks off. I think Arcs of Omen was incredibly well written. I thoroughly enjoyed those. I enjoyed reading every single one of those books. I think the weakest one was Farsight, but otherwise every single one of them was just a blast to read the story and the little tidbits on. And of course, speaking for Age of Sigmar too, you know, the Dawnbringer Crusades were great books. Brought in the Mad King, brought in Usharan. I feel like those ones have a lot better momentum moving the story forward by having these these three little snapshots going on. I feel like we're not getting a greater effect. The plot's moving forward, but also not really. To me, right now, it feels like it's more just spinning its wheels. And I'm hoping that this last book is the part where, you know, the tire catches and the vehicle goes. So who knows? But of course, if you like this content, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Comment, do the whole 9 yard. Let me know what you think. What did you think about the new Maelstrom book? Are you really excited to run new CSM, new Eldari? Or are you like me, kind of waiting for the big payoff on the Eye of Terror and what's going on there? Just let me know. And until next time, my name is Tattoo Tabletop. Go paint something.